Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Council's chambers on this wonderful and beautiful May 12th in the town of Stony Plain. As you can see, members of council are wearing our Oilers jerseys today, as it is game day, game 4 of the second round of playoffs, where Edmonton Oilers are playing the Las Vegas Golden Knights. He is, as we learned in kindergarten, one of these things don't look the same. So if you're looking through the YouTube channel or in council chambers, Councillor Meyer is not wearing a jersey today because we have figured out that when he wears a jersey, it's bad luck for the Oilers. So we're keeping that tradition of Councillor Meyer not wearing a jersey when everybody else does. So thank you for keeping that streak alive, Councillor Meyer. And I just wanted to shout out to a local boy in our community, and some of you may know him, but his name is Brett Kulak. For those that do not know, he is a defenseman that's playing for the Edmonton Oilers right now. Originally drafted by Calgary, boo, but then he was traded to Montreal, and then eventually was traded to the Edmonton Oilers. Brett is a local product, and you can tell that he resembles and embodies what the town of Stony Plain is, and encompasses that sense of community. He is a defenseman that you'll not get tons of scoring, tons of flashiness, and he won't get beat on some bad rushes. So he embodies what Stony Plain is steady, and will get things done. And I think Brett does a great job of representing Stony Plain and the defensive core in the Edmonton Oilers. So let's go Oilers, game 4. So let's see if we can get done quickly tonight. Members of council, there's the agenda before you. Deputy Mayor, for the motion, please.
Your Worship, I move that Town Council adopt the May 12, 2025 regular council meeting agenda as presented.
Thank you. Administration, anything to add to the agenda tonight?
Thank you, Your Worship. Nothing to add.
Okay, thank you. We'll call the question. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Moving on to number 3 of agenda. This is the public input session. This is the time that we allow residents and stakeholders to address council on anything that's not on the current agenda. Administration, has anybody registered to speak?
Through your worship, no one has registered.
Okay, thank you. Anybody in the gallery like to speak to council on anything that's not on the current agenda? Okay. See none. Moving on to their agenda. Number 4 is presentations and delegations. We have nothing scheduled tonight. So number 5 is statutory public hearings, and we have nothing there tonight as well. So moving on to number 6 is the adoption of council minutes. So this is for the regular council meeting minutes of April 28th, 2025. Councillor Fletchko.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. The Town Council approved the April 28th, 2025 regular council meeting minutes as presented.
Thank you. Members of council, you had the opportunity to review them. Any errors, omissions, or questions on those minutes? Okay, I had none either, so I'll call the question on favor. Okay, that is carried. Moving on to number 7, which is council boards and committee minutes. And today, actually, we have 2. So 7.1 is the Meridian Housing Foundation for February 27th, and 7.2 is the Stony Plain Library for March 19th. Councillor Loyens, please.
Town Council received the council board and committee minutes for information.
Okay. Thank you. Members of council, you had the opportunity to review them. So if you have any questions for clarity and understanding, and or any errors and omissions that may pop out at you, to the member representatives. Okay. I just have a question to the council representative on the Meridian Housing Foundation. I know there was a closed session earlier in the meeting minutes, so you can't say anything what was discussed there, but there was a motion coming out of the closed session a little bit further on in terms of appointing the auditor for the 2025 year. And it looks like it wasn't a unanimous consent. So I was just wondering, were there issues in terms of the presentation or just the documents that was presented to the board?
To you, to the rest of council, there was some concerns about the way the RFP was presented in awarding Matrix the RFP. That was all.
Okay, thank you. And then hopefully, as you said, there's issues, so hopefully as the next call for tenders come out, those issues are rectified. Councilor Pletchko?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. A question to the member for the Meridian Housing Foundation. I'm just looking at 7.3 self-contained maximum rent units. I'm just wondering if you could speak to the lowering of the rent from 1160 to 1060. What prompted that?
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, through the mayor to the rest of council, there was some concerns when it came to the rent. We were putting it available, however, it remained vacant for a little period of time, and it was felt that that extra $100 was out of price range, and so it was agreed upon to lower it to 1060, which resulted in it being rented out immediately.
Anything? You're good? Okay, any other questions for clear understanding? Okay, see none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I apologize. I'm going to ask a question of process here. I missed something, unfortunately, in the adoption of our council minutes, and that is on page 14 of 77, and it appears that I voted both in favor and against the second reading of the land use bylaw. So I apologize. I did miss this when this was called a few minutes ago, and so I'm not sure how we get this amended, but I'll look to yourself for administration for some clarity.
Yeah, that is correct. That was clerical, and definitely I missed that as well. So, yeah.
Opposed.
Yes. Okay, if administration can correct that.
Yes, that's an administrative error. We will correct on our end.
Apologies.
No problem. Thank you. I had that, but I did not flag it. So thank you very much for bringing that forward. Great. Okay, moving on to number 8 is our bylaw. So 8.1 is the bylaw for Willow Park Stage 10A. And this is again for first reading, so go ahead, administration.
Good evening, Council. We're here to talk about the Willow Park Stage 10A Land Use Bylaw Amendment. Again, it's Bylaw 2721, LUO 25. So in terms of our land use planning framework in Stony Plain, this falls under the land development, which is where we have rezoning applications, land use bylaw amendments, and subdivisions, including land servicing. As an aerial context for the area, this area is just to the southwest of St. John Paul II Catholic School. You can see the bylaw areas on the screen here in red crosshatch. Just across, it's adjacent to the Highway 779 or 48th Street, and just north of Willow Park Road or the Willow Park neighborhood. This is actually the final stage of that neighborhood, and it's just across from the Glens neighborhood to the west. So this area does have a statutory plan already in place, the Willow Park Area Structure Plan. This is the most recent amendment. I think there's 7, 8, somewhere in that ballpark. This one here shows the yellow areas as a detached dwelling areas and the orange as a kind of a mixed form, so single detached, row housing, detached, that sort of product. We're focusing on the area that's shown on the area structure plan in the top 3 lots in the northwest corner. What the applicant is proposing is to redistrict the site from an R2 to an R7. When Willow Heights Drive was developed, there were servicing constraints on this site. Just the elevations made it quite difficult to do the final 2 lots of servicing. So one larger lot has been serviced at this point in time. There is a subdivision going on right now to subdivide the lands to the west of Willow Heights Drive into 5 single detached lots and this one larger lot. As it's currently zoned as an R2, that one lot would only be able to have a single detached home with a single dwelling on it or a secondary suite, so 2 in total. And what the applicant has asked for here is to increase the number of dwellings on there and basically put something like a row house or a small multi-unit building on there. Given the size of the lot, which is 0.110 hectares in size, this would facilitate a small building somewhere between 3 to 9 dwellings on there. If it was able to be serviced properly, the same size area would typically have anywhere between 3 to 6 units on there, so there's a slight increase. Given the minor scale of this site, being a smaller size, administration does not believe there needs to be an update to the area structure plan, despite some, I guess, disagreement between the two, but would just recommend the R2 to the R7 to facilitate one single lot and a better efficient use of this one slightly larger than typical detached lot in terms of its size. So again, we're here for first reading, and if council so blesses administration to do the advertisement for the public hearing, we're recommending that for June 23rd, with second and third reading to follow, and ultimately a decision on the bylaw. That concludes my presentation, and if council has any questions, we're here to ask. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the presentation and bringing this forward. Members of council, any questions for clarity and understanding to administration? Councillor Laurie, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. And through you to administration, you mentioned the reason that this was coming forward from the applicant was due to servicing constraints or servicing challenges in respect to that lot. When you then mention the potential of an increase in the number of dwelling units on there, do the servicing difficulties create any challenges in relation to a potential increase in density? Would the services that are run to that lot be able to manage the capacity that would be created by a higher density dwelling?
Go ahead.
Through your worship to Councillor Laurie, there may be some challenges, I guess, but that is something that we'd look at with the detailed design for a proposal. Again, typically the size of our standard does allow for additional dwelling units than, say, the average of 2 on a standard lot. So there may be some challenges, but it is something that we would look into more at the detailed level.
And through your worship to Councillor Laurie and all of council. So as the manager alluded to, it really depends on what kind of, if this rezoning was to pass by council through the process, a dialogue would ensue with the developer, understanding what kind of sizes, what servicing sizes are out there, and if there would need to be some changes to the service connection into the pipe. It's the services are coming in on the south side of the property there. So the intention from the developer, as I understand it, has been that they want to minimize any changes to the services that are currently out there, but ultimately moving this rezoning along would allow them some options and some flexibility to work within the current constraints of the area.
Thank you. Any other questions for clear understanding from members of council? See none. Oh, Councillor Plechko, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. So now that it's been redone, the Willow Heights Drive has been redone, is it still hard for them to add the services into that lot the way it's existing, or is it just a cost factor?
Your worship to Councillor Plechko. The challenge was when the road was being done, it was looked and planned for to have all 3 of these originally planned lots to be serviced. Due to the amount of coverage over the pipes, there was concern with the frost line and freezing of those pipes, and even with the insulation that is sometimes put in there, there was still challenges. So it's more of a factor at the conceptual design. Everything kind of checked out, but when they went to look at the detailed design, the elevations just didn't allow for enough cover over there. So it's not necessarily a cost thing. I think the developer would have probably preferred just to continue the same product all the way up, and more just circumstances on the site's constraints.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for clarity and understanding? That's good. So just in terms of a question for our understanding, it says from a rezoning from an R2 to an R7, for example, with those 3 lots that are currently zoned R2, what is the maximum number of units on those lots?
If the area were to be subdivided into the 3 areas as planned, initially, there would be 3 single detached lots with 3 secondary suites potential. So a total of 6 units, 3 to 6.
Okay.
And under the R7 districting, it would allow anywhere between, I think it's 3 to 9 units. So possibility for an increase. But again, typically these are going to be smaller dwelling sizes. So you might have the same boat population in terms of you might have a house with 3 or 4 people, and yet you might have 2 or 3 apartments in the same area that might have 1 or 2 people in it. But again, we look at the dwelling units, so slight increase with those numbers.
Okay, thank you. And then in terms of 3 to 9, that's the size and with the full parking out for each residence.
That is correct.
Thank you. Any more questions for clear understanding from members of council? Seeing none, I'll ask Councillor Anderson for the motion for first reading and public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me, I'll move that town council give first reading to bylaw 2721/LUO/25, a bylaw to amend land use bylaw 2719/LUO/25, and number 2, to authorize administration to schedule a public hearing for June 23rd, 2025.
Thank you for the motion. Members of council, any questions, comments, and debate on the motion on the floor? Councillor Hansard, Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question, please. This property, it'd be wonderful to see something actually develop there. It's languished for a number of years. When will council be told who the actual developer is? And can administration answer if that same developer would be looking at continuing development on that whole 10 acres that's there?
Administration.
Through your worship to Councillor Hansard. Exclusive Development, Inc. is the landowner there. They're the ones that have applied for this through consultants, and ultimately they do own the entire parcel. So right now, just the road right-of-way for the boulevard there has been taken out of that larger parcel. So there's kind of an east parcel and a west parcel. They're all owned by the same land under one land title.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, and debate on the motion? Okay. See none, I'm definitely looking forward to the public hearing on June 23rd to see if our residents provide any commentary, and definitely we sometimes get some written commentary, and sometimes we have also people in the chamber, so that'll be good, and that's also our opportunity to ask those questions of the builder and the landowner, anything that we need to clarify. So with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Yeah, that is carried. Thank you. And now we're moving on to 8.2, which is the 2025 property tax bylaw. Members of council can recall, this is something that we do on a yearly basis after we have the full assessment value determined, and anything that was adjusted during spring adjustment to lower or increase the tax rate that council preliminary proposed in November at our corporate plan. And so we're now ready for that presentation from members of our staff. All right. So administration, whenever you're ready.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. The exercise of setting the annual property tax rate through bylaw authorizes council to impose a tax mill rate in respect to collecting taxation revenue to cover the expenditures of the town set out in the approved corporate plan. The bylaw before you today outlines what has already been approved by council through corporate plan, spring budget adjustments, and any related taxation policies. This evening, we are asking council to consider all 3 readings of the taxation bylaw. Tax notices will be prepared and distributed following the approval of the bylaw this evening. In November 2024, council passed the 2025 corporate plan with a required 7.41% increase to the tax requisition revenue amount, equating to $1.6 million. Spring adjustments presented April 14th identified $153,000 in savings within the budget to reduce the tax revenue needed. The 2025 property tax bylaw presented tonight represents the approved 6.71 tax revenue increase broken out between recreation center of 2.5% and municipal tax 4.21%. This does not directly correlate this does not directly correlate as a tax rate increase rather than a tax revenue required increase. Impacts on mill rates are reviewed further in the presentation. Revenue and Taxation Policy CFS 066 determines the tax rate split between residential and non-residential to be 0.5 less than the average comparative municipalities. These were formerly defined as the urban municipalities of the Edmonton Metropolitan Region Board, less Edmonton. The comparatives can be viewed on the screen. The 2024 average tax rate split of these municipalities was calculated at 1.47. Therefore, as per the Revenue and Taxation Policy, the rate split is 1.42 that has been applied in the bylaw today. This leaves the non-residents carrying the heavier revenue portion. Each property, whether residential or non-residential, are impacted differently by market inflation. On average, the town's total combined residential assessment base realized a real estate market inflation of 2.19%, which reflects as fair market value. New assessment or growth equated to 1.61%, which represents approximately 104 new homes and new subdivision development or phased expansion done throughout 2024. Individual assessment notices were distributed in February to all property owners showing the 2024 assessment value of their property. That will be used for their 2025 taxes. Due to growth, a tax rate split change, spring budget adjustments, and each individual property's inflation, residential properties will see a decrease in the municipal tax impact estimated during the corporate plan. For simplicity, the top chart represents the overall tax rate change, which equates to approximately 3.5% mill rate increase. With final assessment and inflation applied, total impact to residents per $100,000 of assessment is $36.90 annually versus the corporate plan presented at $48.14. Real estate market inflation percent affects each property differently. This is a factor that impacts the actual tax impact a resident incurs. The bottom chart on the slide simply demonstrates a $350,000 house and inflated assessment of 2.19% to $357,665 value to demonstrate the total tax and requisition increase. Non-residential assessment realized growth of 1.81% and inflation of 4.68%. Non-residential total tax rate has been represented on the screen with a municipal tax rate increase of 5%. Provincial education property tax portion increase was 5.5%. The total combined tax rate increase equates to 5.3% with all requisitions. An increase in their mill rate is due to the increased requisition, tax split transfer from residential, offset by growth realized in this classification and market inflation. The bottom chart on the screen depicts the overall market average inflation of 4.68%, which would impact the 2024 $100,000 of assessment value, equating to a combined tax increase of $133.49. However, as all properties are diverse in nature, this comparison is for demonstration purposes only. Also included in the tax bylaw is the requisition amount for the Provincial Education Property Tax and Meridian Housing Foundation. These requisition amounts are defined by those parties' annual budgets. All property owners are required to pay these requisitions. The Provincial Education Property Tax requisition defines the split between residential and non-residential by the province and is allocated to each municipality using the 2023 property values as determined by equalized assessment. In 2024, the province froze their Provincial Education Property Tax requisition at 2023 levels. Provincial Budget 2025 announced the education property tax Provincial education property tax will be increased over the next 3 years and cover 1/3 of education's operating expenses. This increase equates to 10% for residential properties and 5.46% to non-residential properties and is remitted directly to the province of Alberta from the municipality. The Meridian Housing Foundation is collected by the town of Stony Plain and is remitted accordingly. Meridian Housing Foundation requisition for all their operations has increased 4.57% to a total of $247,328. In addition, the capital requisition for the Spruce Grove Lodge has a full year to the requisition with an annual debenture payment of $161,922 and will continue for the duration of a 10-year debenture period. The chart on the screen summarizes the impact per 100,000 for each municipal tax, rec center, school, the provincial education, property tax, and Meridian housing requisitions. This chart can be used to estimate the total taxes and requisitions based on assessment notices. The pie chart denotes the allocation of a tax bill with percentages broken out by municipal, rec center, Meridian Foundation, and the provincial education property tax. Total municipal portion equates to 66.1% of the total tax bill. The provincial education property tax portion is the second largest at 28.3%. Administration recommends council consider all three readings of the bylaw as presented with the motions before you. Distribution of the tax notices will commence after the bylaw is approved. This concludes my presentation. I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. Definitely thank you for breaking that down for us, members of council, and to those that will be watching the YouTube channels later to see where the dollars and cents are going in terms of the increase from last year. Members of council, questions for clarity and understanding? Councilor Laurie, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. And first of all, thank you to administration for the presentation. Obviously, we understand, sitting at this bench, that the tax bill, the property tax bill that a resident receives has a lot of complexities to it. It has many different variables to it. One of the questions that arises, particularly due to the number of changes that we're seeing this year, the provincial education tax, which we haven't seen change in quite some time, the changes with the Meridian Housing Foundation, and so on and so forth. The question that comes to my mind is what communication strategy and what communication plan do we have to our residents to explain everything that they're seeing? For example, when I look at the chart that's included on page 55, and it's showing the net increase on this specific example, we see that the school foundation increase is equivalent to approximately 40% of the increase that this resident in this scenario will see. We know that we don't control the school foundation, and that's a provincial tax that we're required to collect on their behalf. However, when a resident receives a property taxation notice that's stamped with the town of Stony Plain, the first person who gets that phone call is the town of Stony Plain. And so knowing that these changes are coming, knowing that we see this happening on the bill, knowing that some of this is within and some of this is without our control and our blessing, we'll call it, how are we ensuring that we communicate exactly how this is broken down, exactly who made what decisions, and who the residents are best to contact on certain aspects of it?
Go ahead, administration.
Thank you. Through your worship to Councillor Laurie and all of council. We do have a few tools in our toolbox in order to communicate to the residents in this complex situation. So one of them is an insert that is included within the tax notices that will be mailed out. On that pamphlet, it includes information regarding the provincial education property tax, and also a phone number directly to that association should the resident want to contact them. We also have the breakdown of where your $1 of taxes is going, which would show also the breakout of those pieces of the requisitions. We also have worked extensively with our communications department on a communications plan, which involves social media, posting on our website, all of those are regular avenues for communication. So our additional communication, I guess, is the pamphlet that does go with mailed out with every single assessment or tax notice that would be reaching those. We also, when we receive the calls, we also can refer them back to the presentation that is recorded and all of the documents that are available as well on our website that would have all of these more detailed charts. And we absolutely work with the residents or anyone calling in to explain any of those complex matters.
Thank you. Anything else?
Yeah, thank you. And again, thank you very much for that breakdown. And you did mention working extensively with communications in regards to websites, social media, et cetera. So is that a larger amount of communication or a higher acuity of communication than we would normally have when tax notices go out? Or are we just expecting the same amount of communication as we have seen in years past?
Go ahead.
Thank you, through your worship, to Councillor Laurie and all of council. We do know the sensitivity of some of the increases that have been imposed on our residents from, for example, the provincial school education tax. And as a result, we have ramped up our communications regarding that specific item and regarding the detail and the contact information and all of that that is provided.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, any more questions for clarity and understanding to our staff? Okay. Councilor Anderson, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and certainly just want to echo Councillor Laurie's comments there around the education impact. And I think seeing the pie chart there really helps us to appreciate the significant portion of the municipal tax bill that goes out to residents is not specifically determined by us here at council, and as Councillor Laurie suggested, there's things that we can control and certainly things that we can't. Within the realm of things that we can control, I do have a couple of questions, and for resident clarity predominantly, but we see again, we have the 2.5% for the recreation center. Certainly there was a lengthy discussion over the last year or so, or a couple of years, about staggering increases so the residents weren't experiencing the full effect of that increase. Can administration please just shed some light quickly on where we're at in that process of increases and what residents can expect moving forward?
Thank you, through your worship, to Councillor Anderson and all of council. So as we have now tendered that project and we will be pulling debenture, et cetera, we'll be doing a complete analysis on that and presenting that to council through the corporate planning process this year to identify if there are any adjustments that are necessary. We did make an adjustment in the corporate plan in 2020 for the year 2025 due to the rate decreases, et cetera. We're still compiling some of that information and regarding the timing of debentures, et cetera. And we will bring that information back as soon as we have it.
All right, thank you for that. And so I'm just going to ask for maybe some numbers we can tack on here. Last year, I believe it was 2.5%. This year's 2.5%, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we were looking at 3 years of 2.5%. So, my apologies. Sorry, 3 years of 3%. We reduced to this now being the second year of increases, and so we would see one more increase potentially for 2026. The amount, though, to be determined based on the factors that you had mentioned: construction costs, debenture rates, and so on. Would that be accurate?
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through Councillor Anderson, I'll have to look back, but my brain is saying our first year was 3%, and then we reduced it down to 2.5%. But that's just off the top of my head right now. I'll have to pull up the documentation. I believe that it is over 4 years. I believe you quoted 3 years, but I can pull that up fairly quickly here.
All right, yeah, for clarity, because obviously I had a little bit of confusion there as well. So if we can have some confirmation there for myself and for our residents, that would be helpful. I do have a second question, but I don't know if we want to just wait for an answer there, Mr. Mayor, or if you want me to ask the second one.
Okay, I'll let administration find that number, but I believe it was supposed to be 4 years at 3% a year for the rec center. The first year, we approved at 3%, and then after the tenants went out and some of the interest rates came down, this next increase was 2.5%. And then so in our corporate plan for 2026, it's earmarked at 3%, and 2027 is earmarked at 3% as well. And at that time, when council deals with the corporate plan, we'll take in all the considerations that is mentioned by the administration, and that may be lowered or increased based on those facts at that point in time. Why don't you go for your second question while we wait for the confirmation?
No, that's actually good, and so I do want to just follow that up quickly. The 4 times 3, potentially, obviously, the reduction for this year, is that all specific to capital costs, or were the operating costs of the rec center included in those numbers?
Okay, administration, go ahead.
Thank you, through your worship, to Councillor Anderson. So just referencing the 2025 to 2027 approved corporate plan that is available on our website. So starting on page 47. So as the mayor had mentioned, in 2024, we had a 3% increase for only the capital. In 2025, a 2.5% for only the capital. 2026, 2.5% for only the capital. 2027, the last 2.5% for only capital. And then you'll also see the operations coming in to service at 0.44%. It's coming in 2026 at 0.42% for a partial year, and then an additional 0.44% in 2027.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm going to switch gears here a little bit, just looking at our projection. So I'm looking at the lead sheet here, 53 of 77. In my first couple of years at council, we certainly were conservative in our estimates of our revenue growth year over year. The last couple, we've seen some adjustments there to 2.85 was estimated in our current corporate plan. We came in about 1% or 1% and a little bit there under. And just looking to administration for some clarity, is this just a matter of timing on some residential and commercial construction? Was there construction maybe that wasn't completed that we had anticipated? Just some comments on, I know it's not lots, but the missed target there.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, through your worship, to Councillor Anderson. So this was a delay in some projects or some anticipated construction that we had some educated guesses that would be further along than they currently were. We are hoping that some of this will be caught up through the supplementary taxes process this year, and also we'll monitor once we know those numbers, and then we didn't want to impact the residents with that, and so we'll pull back spend or reevaluate to ensure that we can make up that amount if necessary.
Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Anderson. Any other questions for clear understanding to administration? Councilor Anderson, Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, just for clarity, through you to administration, I'm curious if it doesn't take a rocket scientist to drive around Stony Plain and see a lot of building happening. And usually in growth periods, we find that impacts our budget in a very positive way when we're not doing the building, because that will be tax revenue that will come into the town. And when you spread the amount of taxes needed to run the municipality and spread it over more people, it usually impacts positively for the residents in that their taxes tend not to go up or to even be lower than we anticipated. With the amount of growth that we're experiencing right now, this will impact not next year, but the year following. Could you clarify that? And if so, do we still anticipate these increases for the rec center, Or do we think that that may indeed lower it or lower the other taxes so that the impact is less to our taxpayers?
Okay, go ahead, Administration.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Hansard and all of council. To answer your first question, the assessment does impact, essentially, we're assessing a year behind always, so it does take a year to see that. So a house that just started construction, for example, in 2025, won't be reflective of that assessment that on that property. And so it will take a year, as mentioned. And then I'm just going to ask if you can clarify your question regarding the rec center increases.
Well, we're set in at 2.5% for at least this year and 2 more years, if I'm understanding correctly. Will that come down if the growth continues, especially at an exponential rate? Or does it not impact that piece of the budget, but might cause other taxes to be less?
Thank you for your question, through your worship, to Councillor Hansard and all of council. That is correct. Growth does impact what we have into our or need to requisition out to the residents. We do estimate growth, and so if there was a higher amount of growth within the town than what is already projected within the corporate plan, then absolutely that would adjust our total amount that we would need to requisition.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah,
So,
Your
Mr.
Worship, if I could maybe have a couple of comments on that one too. So the original project financing, I mean, the tax increases directly for the capital side of the recreation facility project were set at, I believe it was roughly about 12% would be required to cover the debenture payment costs. And I think the commitment that I believe council made and administratively would be to track down that 12% as much as possible in different ways, if able. One being any further grants would bring that down, as I think a manager was just kind of alluding to, spreading it out amongst more assessment will relatively bring that down. Final tender costs, as well as some interest rate cost. I think the intent was to ensure that is reevaluated every year in every corporate plan. And I think so far we've been able to reduce that a couple percentage points, I believe, on an estimated basis. And the commitment would still to factor all of these different types of numbers in and readjust if necessary, with the idea that if we're readjusting, it'll in all likelihood be readjusted down. There were some factors that could see that go the other way, but the biggest hurdle was getting through the tender documents and the construction and the award for the tender costs, which we did late last year. Had some fixed pricing on that. Now it's managing through that contract. Again, with the philosophy, I believe, that the town took was that this would be the worst case kind of number, and we believe we can, in prudent ways, manage that down as we move through the next 4 years.
Okay. Yeah, so it's a good question, Deputy Mayor. So in terms of the initial approval, as mentioned, it was supposed to be 4 years at 3%, which is a 12-year total impact on our taxes. After the first year, the growth in our community has allowed us to reduce the projected next couple of years to 2.5, and this year we approved 2.5. So next year is projecting 2.5, and 2027 is projecting 2.5. If it continues to grow, as you mentioned, then that might come down to 2%. The following years. So currently right now we approved 12%, and right now we're tracking at 10.5.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So just as a point of clarity then, I think that budgets are kind of a living document. We do the best we can with the information that we have in a moment. We do a projected budget in December, then we firm that up earlier in the year, and then we come to May, and then we have to lock it in so people know what they're paying. And then the assessments get sent out and the people are billed for their taxes. But if projects come in under budget, that might affect things. Is that true? Or anything that the town does? If we find that that the cost to do, perform various services indeed holds steady or comes down, it can affect us in a positive way as taxpayers might view it. Is that correct?
That's correct. So at the end of the year, after our administration has met with the auditors, then we'll come back with a surplus or a deficit. So those projects that have come under budget become a surplus. And then through our policies, a third of that goes into this tax stabilization reserve, which then helps us lower the taxes on one-off projects. And then the rest goes into other reserves that the council wants to put into, such as like roads or sewers and other things like that.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for clarity and understanding? Okay. Just in terms of the slides or the presentation on page 57 and 58, I know we update this every year in terms of during the corporate plan, and then here again is updated to see what our rate will be in 2025. And it's also noted that we haven't had the formal rates from the other municipalities yet. Is it possible, like, if when we're approving this, I would assume that the other municipalities would probably pass it around the same time because our taxes have to go at the same time. Can council get an updated version of the 2025 rates? Like, sooner than later, so that when we go out and to talk to residents, we can say, here's what it was last year, this is what we increased it, and this is what our playing field is right now?
Thank you, Your Worship. We absolutely can work on that. Just a point of clarity, would you be wanting us to wait for all of the comparative municipalities to pass their tax bylaw before distributing, or send it out with what we have as of today?
I'll just say, just wait until everybody's passed it, so probably in June, because all the tax notifications have to go out, so everybody has to have a set rate by that time. Okay, thank you. Any other questions for clear and understanding from members of council? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move over to Councillor Meyer for the motion, first reading, please.
Yes, thank you, thank you, Your Worship. That the Town Council give first reading to bylaw 2722/tax/25, a bylaw to authorize the rates of taxation to be levied against property within the town of Stony Plain for the 2025 taxation year.
Thank you. Members of council, we had a good presentation. As you recall, this is an ongoing process that we started back in November through the corporate plan, and then again in just April when we did the spring adjustments, and now it's coming for the finalization so that our taxes can be set at a rate and then sent out to the administration. Administration will send out to our residents. Any questions or comments on the debate on the motion for first reading? See none, I'll call the question. All in favor of first reading? Okay. That is carried. Councillor Laurie for second reading, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the Town Council give second reading to bylaw 2722/tax/25.
Okay, thank you. Any debate on second reading? Call the question, all in favor? That's carried. Moving on to Deputy Mayor for unanimous consent, please.
Your Worship, I move that Town Council give unanimous consent to consider third reading to bylaw 2722 tax 25.
Thank you. And to members of council and the ones that are in the gallery, that if council does through all three readings of a bylaw in one sitting, there has to be unanimous consent from members of council. So I'll call the question, all in favor? That is carried. Councilor Plechko.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. The Town Council give third reading to bylaw 2722/tax/25.
Thank you. Any last comments and debate on the motion? See none, on behalf of council and the residents, thank you, administration, for doing an outstanding job as you do each and every year. I know it's not hard. I know it's incredibly hard to gather members of council and what we hear from the public in terms of strat planning, to put it on paper and to talk to your departments about what is necessary, what is a want, and how to best to kind of blend that. You know, for myself, I definitely have lots of wants for my community, but there's also needs in the community too, and we can't do all the wants. We need to also address the needs. And I think this council and administration has worked well together to make sure we blend the needs and wants in our community to continue to grow our community, but making sure that we're not hampering with taxes and the increased tax loads. So great job, members of council and administration. With that, I'll call third reading. All in favor? That is carried. Okay, moving on for the agenda is number 9. We have no new business scheduled tonight. And we move to number 10, which is council discussion. So this is the time that allows members of council to bring up issues that we've heard from our community or issues that may be worthwhile on our committees and boards to bring to the attention of all members of council. Councilor Loyens, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to make note that on May 15th is the Moose Tide Walk, taking a stand against violence towards women and children at 5:30, starting at the Family Connection Center, as well as our outdoor pool is scheduled to open May 16th. And because we have no meeting next week, I want to mention that it is the 75th annual 4-H sale at Heritage Park on May 21st. The show is at 10 a.m. and the sale starts at 7 p.m. And that is it.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Loyens. Deputy Mayor?
Oh, sorry, Your Worship, I have nothing this evening. We've done a lot of things. I'd have to have a whole long list.
Thank you. Councilor Pletchko?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Okay. Councilor Meyer?
Make it a hat trick here, nothing for me as well.
Councilor Laurie?
Nothing, thank you very much.
Councilor Anderson?
Thanks. Now I feel like I should say nothing, but I do have something to share. This last week, and actually the week ahead, I think highlights something that is really important, I know, to our council and our administration. And there's been a lot of celebrations of community partners, whether that's local businesses with Wahoo Swimming and Wonders Daycare opening up, or our neighbors to the east with Heavy Metal Place, which is an amazing addition to our region. And as we look forward this week, celebrating the work of John Paul II in opening their new playground, and later this week with Memorial Composite High School celebrating their 75th. And so regardless of the way we look on the calendar, there's lots for us to celebrate in terms of the community partnerships and the businesses that are present in our community to help to provide services to our residents. And so certainly grateful to our municipal partners, our business partners, our school partners as well, in all that they do to serve the residents in our area.
Okay, thank you for that. And then before I just end the meeting, just as mentioned, on May 15th is the 75th anniversary of Memorial Composite High School. So all those past, present, and former members of Memorial Composite High definitely take the opportunity to come down and say hi and check out the halls. I think you'll see a few of our faces in there. Again, it is a great school to check out. On the 17th, if you're in town, there is a celebration in town, and a certain group, they'll be celebrating the Kerala Days celebration, and that's over at Heritage Park. I think Deputy Mayor Hansen will be bringing greetings on behalf of the town, so talking about celebrations. Thank you for doing that, Deputy Mayor. And also on the 21st, we have a funding announcement. So the town was successful in receiving some money from the LGSG grant, and that was the grant that was set up to assist growing municipalities within the province. The town has received $1 million, so we'll be having a kind of a net funding announcement that time. And I believe, I think Councillor Laurie is speaking. We'll figure that out. I just know I will not be here, but there will be some speaking notes on that time, so good. And also, if those people in our community are around on the 22nd, Stony Plain is hosting the Alberta Japan 20 Municipalities Association conference. That's held every year, and that's for all the members within Alberta that are twinned with a municipality in Japan. Stony Plain has been twinned with Chicago for 40 years, and the province of Alberta has been twinned with the province of Hokkaido for 45 years. So during that conference, usually there's an open session which everybody can come and attend, and there's also an AGM where we elect the next board and where the next conference is held. So if you're in town, please step down and see what the partnership is all about. And speaking about our 40th anniversary, and also that weekend from the 23rd to the 24th, our friends from Chicago will be in town to help us celebrate the 40th anniversary of our sister relationship. Last month, members of council had the opportunity to travel to Chicago and celebrate with our neighbors and partners there as well. to see a relationship that has gone from 1985 to 2005 now, and see how it's progressed over the years and has continuously evolved and changed. It gives our residents and the residents of Chicago the ability to kind of step outside the box and see what's out there in the world. Even though we're halfway, actually, we're 6,995 kilometers apart from Stony Plain to Shekawi. And how do I know that? It's a useless fact that I get when I open a Pokemon here and I open a Pokemon in Shekawi. It is 6,995 kilometers apart. So that's maybe a trivia question that we can use at one point or another. But it is interesting when you have two communities that are roughly 7,000 kilometers apart, be able to connect and link and actually build on those personal relationships, cultural experiences, and actually put effort into making sure that the sister relationship survives and that our residents have the opportunity to experience another culture. Okay. And well, that's it. So with that, our next meeting is May 26th. So definitely enjoy the couple weeks there, and we'll see you guys back in the next council meeting. With that, number 11 is no closed meeting, so we went on number 12, which is adjournment, and we are done. We are adjourned. Thank you. Enjoy the game. Go Oilers, go.